The arrow pierced through his layer of protective energy, causing it to burst like a balloon. His primal chi leaked into surroundings, rolling out in majestic waves all over the area and leaving ripples in its wake. It was a spectacular sight to behold. Pooh! Ding Fanchio spat out a mouthful of fresh blood in the sky. Bam! Ding Fanchio crashed through a building, destroying it in the process. The energy around him instantly dispersed the moment he hit the building. It was an archer. It was a nascent Divinity Tribulation Realm archer. An elite had arrived. Only a nascent Divinity Tribulation Realm archer could land a hit on Ding Fanchio from such a distance under these circumstances. Also, the archer must have a certain level of skill. Who could that person be? Under Great Yan skies, there was only one person who could pull off such a shocking feat, easily piercing through a 5-leaf Avatar Elite's protective energy layer. It must have been the most powerful person among the 3 godly archers. He was here. At this moment, everyone's attention was focused on the arrow. Master, Ding Fanchio's 3 disciples exclaimed in shock. An expression of disbelief could be seen on their faces. Their master, whom they respected, a 5-leaf Golden Lotus Avatar Elite, was shot down by an arrow. Such a high-level archery skill. Is the elite from the palace here? Everyone looked around their surroundings, trying to catch a glimpse of the newcomer. Zhou looked at the direction where the arrow had come from. Although his vision was obscured, he could vaguely see a flying chariot hovering at the edge of the horizon. The boxy, bright red flying chariot was not big. It was like a palanquin. Each corner of the flying chariot was supported by a girl dressed in red robes. Their faces were painted with heavy makeup as well. So, the reinforcement from the palace are here. It seems like there is more than one of them. What if one deadly strike card is enough? Meanwhile, the archer could be seen next to the flying chariot. He wore a cape and a bamboo hat. At this moment, he was descending to the ground at an extremely fast speed before landing on the ground with ease. The archer possessed a 6-leaf cultivation base at least. He was Zhou, the most powerful person among the Divine Capital's 3 godly archers. Upon seeing Zhou, the soldiers fell to their knees in unison. Greetings, Lord Chun. The nascent Divinity Tribulation Realm archer stared at Zhou and the others. He did not acknowledge the soldiers. He walked toward Zhou and the others at a speed that was neither slow nor fast. As he got closer, they could see his figure with increasing clarity. He finally stopped moving when he was a dozen meters away from them. After that, he removed his bamboo hat and tossed it aside. His entire person radiated a cold aura. Name, Zhou. Race, Triverso. Realm, nascent Divinity Tribulation. Triverso? Zhou was slightly surprised, but his expression remained neutral. He glanced at the bright red flying chariot again and the 4 girls who were supporting it. Perhaps they were too far away. He could only see the outlines of their figures. However, based on their auras, he determined that at least 2 of them were in the nascent Divinity Tribulation Realm. However, a nascent Divinity Tribulation Realm cultivator without any leaves was not a genuine cultivator in the nascent Divinity Tribulation Realm. I think I might have underestimated the situation. Should I use an impeccable card to escape? Zhou was still contemplating his options when Zhu's cold voice rang in the air. The Lord has ordered for these people from the Evil Sky Pavilion to be captured and handed over to the palace. The soldiers and cultivators bowed and responded in unison. Understood. Ding Fanchio's 3 disciples paled immediately. They cried out one after another. We're not disciples from the Evil Sky Pavilion. You've made a mistake. We're fakes. However, Zhou, who held a bow and arrow in his hand, said indifferently, since they're fakes, we'll execute them here. The palace might have given them some consideration if they were from the Evil Sky Pavilion. However, since they were fakes, there was no need to be considerate toward impostors. Upon hearing this, Ding Fanchio's 3 disciples fell to the ground. Zhou played with his bow that seemed to be an earth-grade weapon. It was similar to Li Qing's bow. He did not knock an arrow to his bow. Instead, he smiled before he placed his right hand on the bowstring, drawing it back. At this moment, he turned his chi into an energy arrow. BZZD. There was a buzz in the air as Chunju pulled the bowstring back. It sounded extremely ominous. Target: Ding Fancho's only female disciple. Twang! The arrow took flight immediately. The female disciple did not have time to plead or resist before the arrow pierced through her chest. Her eyes widened before she dropped dead. Her aura had completely vanished. Junior sister, junior sister. The other two disciples cried out, unable to believe their eyes. How would it be possible for a divine court realm cultivator, who was restricted by the grand witchcraft formation, to defend herself against Chenju, one of the divine capital's 3 godly archers? Ding Fancho's expression changed drastically. You! Chenju sneered as he raised his right arm again. BZZD, an energy arrow appeared on the bowstring again. Everyone understood Chenju's plan. He was going to kill them one by one with his arrows. He looked at Ding Fancho coldly as he said, Ji Tian now? His arrow was trained on Ding Fancho. Ding Fancho coughed violently as he sat up. He lifted his hand and broke the arrow that was embedded in his body. After that, he asked in a tone that was tinged with incredulity, You are Chenju, one of the 3 godly archers whose arrows never miss? Chenju chuckled. My reputation precedes me. Then he said slowly, Indeed, I'm Chenju. You've trespassed where you shouldn't have. Ding Fancho brushed his white hair aside before he said, This is how the Evil Sky Pavilion has always operated. Chenju shook his head. That's enough. It's one thing for you to fool the others with your act, but you can drop your act in front of my lord. Your strength and cultivation base are too weak. Ding Fancho was stunned. He glanced at the bright red flying chariot in the sky. An expression of surprise appeared on his face before it was replaced by a stiff and unnatural expression. Chenju said confidently, Even the real patriarch of the Evil Sky Pavilion would have to admit defeat today, let alone an imposter like you. This grand witchcraft formation was prepared specifically with blind and arrogant cultivators, such as yourself, in mind. He did not release his grip on the bowstring. Instead, he looked left and right in search of other targets. He appeared flippant as though his opponents were just a herd of sheep waiting to be slaughtered. It was only natural that Chenju took the situation lightly. After all, he was a nascent divinity tribulation realm godly archer. He could shoot 3 energy arrows at a time. Nobody could tell who his next target would be. The naked eye would not be able to follow the movements of a godly archer when he was shooting. At this moment, Zhou finally spoke up. 3 godly archers of the divine capital? His ancient voice was deep and domineering. Chenju's gaze shifted from Ding Fancho to Zhou. He frowned slightly. He did not notice the old man prior to this. Zhou's expression was calm. His right hand was resting on his back, while his left hand was stroking his beard. It seemed as though he was not affected by the grand witchcraft formation at all. Chenju was shocked. He asked skeptically, You're not affected by the grand formation? Zhou responded indifferently, Are you talking to me? Chenju waved his hand that was holding onto the bow. Do you know who you're talking to? Zhou shook his head and said, I applaud you for your bravery. Old man, who are you? Chenju asked arrogantly. Little Yuaner could not hold it back any longer. Before Zhou could reply, she retorted in a clear voice, The person standing before you is a true master of the Evil Sky Pavilion. Her voice was infused with primal chi. Ding Fancho, the 2 disciples. Chenju. Ding Fancho trembled inwardly. Realization dawned on him as he pieced the puzzles together. An awkward expression appeared on his face. No wonder. I had thought this little girl resembled the Evil Sky Pavilion's 9th disciple. He did not know if he should laugh or cry at this moment. He was in a lot of pain. To think he attempted to take her under his wings several times. Who knew the old man whom he had brought with him was the old villain he had been impersonating? I'm dead. I'm dead. However, Chenju guffawed. It was as though he had been told the greatest joke of the day. My lord was informed that this Ji Tiandao is an impostor. I am to kill him on the spot. Chenju raised his right arm, condensing an energy arrow. It was at moments like this that he could not let his guard down. Zhou stroked his beard and said, If you answer 3 of my questions, I'll turn a blind eye to today's event. Chen Zhu was about to erupt in anger. However, bells began to ring in the air as though an order was being conveyed. Upon hearing this, he frowned slightly. He asked with a tinge of annoyance, "What are they? First, who's your lord? Second, what's the purpose of fishing the corpses out of the river? Third, who's the mastermind behind the destruction of the fish dragon village? If you answer these 3 questions, no one will die today." Lu Zhou's tone, attitude, and expression convinced Ding Fanqiu that Lu Zhou was the real Ji Tiandao, the real master of the Evil Sky Pavilion. Before Lu Zhou even made a move, there was no doubt that Lu Zhou was the Patriarch of the Fiend Path, who had 9 great villains as his disciples. Was there anyone under the heavens, apart from Ji Tiandao, who was able to stand unaffected in a grand witchcraft formation? Ding Fanqiu's 2 remaining disciples' jaws dropped. They were as motionless as a doll. Their bodies trembled in fear from this revelation. Meanwhile, Chen Zhu frowned when he heard the 3 questions. It seemed like he was waiting for an order from a flying chariot. Silence permeated the place. It was so quiet that the silence seemed palpable. At this moment, the great witchcraft formation was fully activated. The soldiers standing outside the formation raised their spears as they readied themselves for the order to strike. The cultivators also prepared themselves to attack their targets. This is a sure win situation. My lord, what are you thinking about? Chen Zhu thought to himself. Ring, ring, ring. The bells rang again. As soon as Chen Zhu heard the sound, his frown eased immediately. A knowing smile appeared on his face. He had never met anyone who dared to speak to him in such a manner. His expression was cold as he said, "My apologies. It's meaningless for someone who's about to die to know the answers to these questions." Death was the best outcome for these people. A shot arrow could not be recalled. Bizizdi. Chen Zhu drew the bowstring back and turned his chi into several energy arrows. His eyes glinted coldly as he asked pointedly, "Any last words?" A nascent divinity tribulation realm archer was truly skilled at turning chi into energy arrows. Indeed, the godly archer could be considered as an expert in his own right, as expected of the divine capital's 3 godly archers. From his movements alone, Lu Zhou could clearly see Chen Zhu was much more powerful than Li Qing, one of the 4 dark knights. As Chen Zhu looked at Lu Zhou's indifferent expression and lack of reply, his arrows buzzed again. At this moment, Lu Zhou scoffed softly as he shook his head. He said, "There's a price to be paid for being stupid." Not 1, but 5 item cards suddenly appeared in his right hand. He had bought 4 cards earlier with just a thought. Lu Zhou waved his arm lightly as 5 glowing vortexes appeared in his hand. They rotated in the counterclockwise direction. In just a short moment, the 5 vortexes shot out. Twang, twang, twang. Chen Zhu released his energy arrows at the same time. Unfortunately, they were devoured by the vortexes. The vortexes that were churning in the counterclockwise direction appeared stunning under the light purple glow of the witchcraft formation. They were linked together like 5 interlinked rings as they continued to shoot forward. What the... Chen Zhu furrowed his eyebrows. At this moment, a golden light shrouded everyone. Everything seemed to spin at this moment. This was a Taoist Madra. When the Taoist Madra was launched, everything paled in comparison. This is dangerous. Chen Zhu, who was taken aback, quickly retreated. He had never seen a skill like this before. At that moment, when he was distracted, the 5 vortexes suddenly grew in size. The golden light intensified. The area it shone on enlarged as well. They looked like countless Taiji golden circles. Taoist Madras. How is this possible? Chen Zhu could not retreat in time. His eyes were filled with shock as he pulled his bowstring back and shot 3 energy arrows out. Bang! 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 Chen Zhu did not stop. He fired another 3 energy arrows. However, the golden Taiji Madra was unaffected, devouring all of Chen Zhu's arrows. Upon seeing this, Chen Zhu's eyes widened in fear. A hint of nervousness could be seen on his face as well. His hand that held the bow trembled slightly before he began to shoot many arrows out. Unfortunately, the arrows were completely ineffective against the golden Taiji. Unique golden symbol could be seen everywhere at this moment, covering everything. Zhou was too close to the golden symbols at this moment. There was no way for him to escape. He thought to himself, frightened, how can there be such a huge madra? Are Taoist madras so big in the first place? The golden circles formed a round wall that was 10 feet tall. Boom! An explosion rang in the air as one of the golden circles exploded, disappearing with the wind. The entire place was silent again. Nothing could be seen at all at the place where Zhou was standing. Not a single trace of him was left behind. Meanwhile, the remaining 4 Taiji golden madras shot toward the horizon. The female cultivators around the red chariot were stunned. It took a while for them to regain their senses and discover that they had fallen into a disadvantageous position. They frowned and shouted, "The audacity!" 4 of them instantly began to make hand seals to deal with the 4 approaching golden circles. With the spot that Zhou was standing at before his death as the center, the Taiji golden symbols spread in all directions for 10 meters. The witchcraft formation under everyone's feet was also covered by the golden light.